Welcome to the bold analysis, ladies and gentlemen. And I had a successful trip, the beautiful county of Kilifi. Mombasa is relatively hot, by the way, and of course we loved it. A partnership between the Bold Podcast and Uzuri Coastal Apartment, and we are going to touch more on that in the course of this analysis. In 2021, through an executive order, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, who was the President of the Republic of Kenya, transferred the stewardship of Kenya Meat Commission and decided to put it under the KDF. And in a record 6 months, after taxpayers' money was pumped into KMC, that establishment became a profit-making entity. And stories are told about how it was very successful, despite the fact that that transfer really was at some point was halted by the court, and other political opponents by then also argued that the president was militarizing the country. And Uhuru will then come and actually praise the military for the work, for the job well done on the Kenya Meat Commission.
The revival of this factory under the auspices of DOD is significant to our livestock sector, for this is the mainstay of at least half of our population. And without doubt, and as we know, this sector has enormous local but also export potential. As I indicated earlier, the sector is a source of livelihood for millions of Kenyans, and the market forces out there have not always lived up to their expectations, especially in times of drought. And therefore it is necessary, and it was necessary, to have government involved as a driver, together with existing private sector players, so that we could create a scenario where there could be some consistency and predictability in the livestock sector, and so that the perpetual low prices that our farmers were getting, especially during periods of drought, when they most need the market, are regularized. And I want to remind you that even as we set our eyes on the European and the Middle East markets for exports, a significant proportion of our growth will come from emerging markets, many of which are right here in Africa, where the population is growing and more consumers now enjoy improved purchasing power. With the Africa Continental Free Trade Arrangement coming into force, this provides opportunity that should benefit our livestock sector by harnessing the entire supply chain in the meat industry. The value chain from animals does not end with meat only, and therefore, in line with our vision of revamping Kenya's leather industry, we have established an enhanced framework for the uptake of hides and skins by our local tanneries.
Now, when William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza team came to power, things seems to have changed, and there was a clamor for privatization of government entities and parastatals that allegedly are not making profit. But I have always argued that instead of selling, and you see there is a clamor, it started with the Kenya sugar belt and then the port, and there was a clamor for that privatization. And I've always asked, what will stop government? What stops government from just doing internal, introspecting and just find out why is it that this entity is not making profit, and they work on efficiencies so that government will be collecting profits from some of these entities. Then, despite of a success of that Kenya Meat Commission under the hands of Millitary, yesterday, when William Samoei Ruto was meeting some leaders from Garissa, Aden Duale, who is the Defense Cabinet Secretary and a leader who is supposed to protect the image of the military and actually applaud what the KDF did in bringing Kenya Meat Commission back to life, was actually asking the president to deny the military that that commission so that it is privatized.
This KMC, Your Excellency, has got, I think, a debt of about 600 million. They did a presentation to us the other day. Maybe the way we did also, we'll come and present to you, the way we did with the sugar, we also write off that debt and put it part of the privatization so that we get a strategic partner who has a market in the Middle East and who can buy our animal.
So when I listened to that, I was a bit shocked, because what I was expecting is that Duale was supposed to defend the fact what military did there. And things don't just happen. Yesterday, the meeting, that meeting was supposed to be meeting with Garissa leaders. So a meeting with Garissa leaders ordinarily should be talking about issues of Watu wa Garissa. But that speech, or rather that statement by Duale, came there because it might have been created, and he's sending a message to the military that Kenya Meat Commission is going to be privatized. And that is a bit of a shame if Duale cannot defend what the KDF did during Uhuru Kenyatta reign. I want to politically look at that move, what Duale is saying amidst the clamor for privatization. But before that, I want to introduce to you the partnership between Bold Podcast and Uzuri Coastal Apartment. Uzuri Coastal Apartment is the best destination for you, sitting in a serene environment with a very close view of the beach, placing the beach at the Sultan Palace. And so, during this holiday season, you can spend your time there with your family. And it's a very calm environment with all the amenities. There is the water baths, the swimming pool. There is also Choma Zone and other recreational spaces within the Sultan Palace. So book your stay there by contacting the number there, Lane Joguna and Frederick Mativo. The budget starts from 12,000. So you can reach out, and I can tell you, I spent my night there, and I think I was there for nearly a night and a day. And that place is a place that will not regret. So book your time, and that is why we say the power of the Bold family. I'll be so glad that we get two or few people here that are members of the Bold, that immediately they come in the country, they say, I'm going to Sultan Palace, under courtesy of this partnership. Ladies and gentlemen, Military is the largest consumer of meat. And one of the reasons why Uhuru Kenyatta even decided to give the military men that commission was because he knew very well that themselves they are beneficiary, and it was going to be a market, themselves they're going to provide a market for the Kenyan meat. Of course, I know that Kenyan meat is also exported to other countries and it earns income for the nation. But also, even in East Africa here, We have the largest market for the meat. We are the largest meat consumer, major meat consumers, even in the region. But I am a bit disappointed by Aden Duale, because politically, the cabinet secretary underscores the military stake in KMC. He underscores the fact that the men in uniform are the ones that did their best to bring it back to life. And you know, I want to say that it will be a political blunder. It will be a big blunder if William Ruto will privatize KMC because of the 600 debt. 600 million debt is one we can pay. Just, we can write off. We wrote off 116 billion for the sugar belt. We can write off this, and instead of privatizing, we need to do introspecting. If it is not making profit, but what's the problem? Because when Uhuru left it, Uhuru said it was making profit. And it had made very good progress. But what has happened during the Kenya Kwanza reign, that the entity is no longer making the profit? That is the question that perhaps we need to answer. Number two, the clamor for privatization, the driver for privatization may not be effectiveness by government earning, maximizing input from it, or even reducing government input in it, but the drive could be personal fortunes. And that is why, despite of, we saw in the transport, Mombasa people refused. In Western, they refused the privatization of sugar belt. But then Duale, even though military had and really are doing some good work in it, he's really supporting it. It points out some personal fortunes. Number three, Ruto does not trust the military stewardship of the commission. And that perception or that picture coming out is not a good one, because it erodes what Uhuru Kenyatta did. Because one of the things that Uhuru Kenyatta did is that Uhuru Kenyatta had a very good chemistry with the military, and by the time he was leaving, even the men in uniform they knew very well that they were missing a man who really meant well for the military. And I want to believe that Ruto should continue with that, so that we don't seem to show that we are not interested. And Kenya Meat Commission is, if you listen to Uhuru Kenyatta's speech, the reason why it was revitalized, it was to help us in steadying food security. Just like military are the largest consumers of meat. So are we going to put that entity under the hand of an individual, while our Kenya military is supposed to buy meat there? We are not getting it right. That's my take. Let's meet in the next podcast. Thank you.